Everybody, welcome to Cityworks Admin One-Stop Configuration presented by Denora Sanchez and Kara Haslam, product managers here at Cityworks. We are delighted to have you join us. My name is Nick Orwin, and it's my pleasure to be hosting this session. Before we get started, I'd like to share a few tips to ensure a smooth meeting for all of us. To drop a comment or a question, go to the red Live Now button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. This will open the session. Scroll to the bottom, click on questions. There you may leave your questions or comments for presenters. We'll address those questions as time permits. If you're having technical difficulties, you can click the question mark at the bottom right of your screen. This will give you a window with ideas on troubleshooting. Please visit our ratings and review module in our navigation bar. There you can write a review and rate this session. You may leave this session at any time by clicking the Exit to Lobby button in the upper right corner of your screen. By selecting Exit to Lobby, you opt out of this session and are pushed back into the conference lobby. Please do not just close your browser without first leaving the meeting, as it will lead to issues for you later on. Finally, a quick plug for our sponsors and exhibitors. Please visit our partners in their virtual space. There you can start live chat with our sponsors and exhibitors to learn more about how they and Cityworks influence your organization. To begin, I'll turn the time over to Denora Sanchez.
All right, thank you, Mr. Orwin. Always
Welcome.
glad to see your face and your happy self. So thank you for moderating this. Good morning or good afternoon for some, or good evening to any of our international attendees also. Thank you so much for coming to this session. You've probably heard about admin for a while now, and here we actually get to dive a little bit more into it in this short session, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. All right, so as you know, we have the safe harbor statement. I won't do the Looney Tunes reading of it like I did last session, but as you can see, I want to just make sure to communicate that anything we do cover here. We're not committing to anything specifically in terms of purchasing decisions or so on, but we are informing you and providing you more information in regards to our current development. All right, so we want to highlight a little bit about, I want to start out this one with just a vision of admin, and Kara and I will tackle both, because this is a really interesting application and fun in that we get to, you've probably heard it before from us, but we want to reiterate as we look at products going forward, how can we better bring together both sides of the platform, both AMS and PLL. And so we want to just recap a little bit of the vision and then some highlights. Obviously, we have less than 30 minutes. The clock is ticking, and so we want to go through some of the items that were included in Admin 1.0, which was released just either a couple weeks ago or at some point. Time is a blur, and then we'll actually give you a quick features of what's all in there, since we can't hit everything, and then Kara will take you through more of the PLL features also. Okay. All right, so this is the current components as we used to know, right? So we have designer and we have PLL admin, and those are the two items that when we start talking about admin, those are the two items that we really want to package in and are a part of now admin. So designer and PLL admin. I do have that disclaimer just so that you know, because obviously is anything that we do, and just like you very well know, continuous improvement, and so we work off an MVP model. We want to make sure that you're aware that all the pages in designer, especially from the AMS side, are not available in admin yet. And the same thing applies from the PLL admin side, okay? All right, so this is just a quick snapshot of what it is that we intend to do. We really do want to provide that one admin where you can work both on the AMS and the PLL side, and you don't have to jump in back in between, but we can manage that through, whether it's employee relates, permission, so on. And the idea behind it, as you can see under this concept, is, okay, we want to migrate, but we don't just want to do a straight migration. We want to look for opportunities to enhance, to consolidate, and that's really the idea. And we have a couple of examples right off the bat of where we've done that, where we had an opportunity to just straight migrate, or we could actually take the time to say, what is going to improve the user experience throughout this? And so as you can see, the fourth item is that user experience. And we're keeping that in mind throughout this. And if you participated in the admin usability study or in the beta program, we thank you a lot. And I did forget this in my last session. I do want to mention, obviously, all that is done here can't be done without our teams from development and from documentation who knock it out of the park, and then eventually, Orwin's team will take it over with training. But I really do want to thank all those individuals who really do such a hard, job to make this available and these features come to life. So thank you. Okay, right off the bat, plugins. If you know from Designer, you have to go to about 3 different pages to set up an employee to a plugin access, load the plugin, give someone access to a plugin profile. And so if you were like me and were like, why are we going to 3 different pages? Oh, and if you wanted to also do licensing, let's just throw a 4th page you have to go to. And so instead, what we did, stakeholders saw that as something very important. We were getting feedback, especially as we were going more and more the plugin route or the app. And so what we wanted to do is actually say, okay, let's go to this plugin page. Not only can I load my plugins here, remove them, delete them, I can actually add users to the plugins from the same page. Or if I have some translation packets that I need to add, especially for our international distributors, you'll download them, translate that, and then re-upload and make them available to those apps. And then you can see the cancel, we do ask you before you want to cancel. But then the plugin profile is the ability to actually go in and assign someone a plugin profile. I will tell you also, we did receive a lot of great feedback from our participants, both partners and clients who went through the usability study. And so we are taking feedback from there. Now you can see at the top right, this is actually the quick navigation. If you weren't aware, this was actually also available in Office, but it's just Control Spacebar. And then you can actually easily move between pages. So you don't always have to go back to the home page. And if you didn't catch this, this is the home page for admin, okay? I don't know about y'all, but I think, and Orwin can attest to this because he's part of the admin stakeholders group, we were pretty psyched about this because, I mean, I don't think it's a shocker or newsflash for anyone, but how can you make admin really like flashy or cool? Not much to it, right? It's the nucleus of our system, but we wanted to, once again, from the user experience, how can we make it better for our clients so that they can figure out what are their top pages they go to, and they can assign those and give it a star. And so they could make those available up there, or that it's not just word vomit on the bottom half of all the available pages, but that we can modify those and present them in different ways. And so the admin tab is really the way where you would see all the different pages. GIS and PLL are pretty self-explanatory, and then configures, where you actually get to work with those templates and all the components associated with that. So the next one that I wanted to highlight was work activity templates. And that's actually one of the areas where it's a new twist. So obviously prior to this, you used to have work order templates and service request templates and then inspection templates all separated. And obviously there's people who will have access to only certain amounts of those or certain pages of those. So we were thinking about how can we make that experience better and still rely on employee relates and the permissions there, but minimize the number of pages. So we've consolidated that. We've also consolidated some of the tabs. So template activities now includes task and inspection. So less tabs you have to go through, but they're all on one. Estimated equipment, labor, material, it is now on one tab rather than 3. And you'll see in the next video how that actually adds more context and information from a glance. And the last consolidation that occurred was asset and map. And that has the asset updates and the map layer previous tabs now combined into one. Security, template security is now available also on the work activity templates. I'll show you what that looks like. And then lastly, we also do have inspections where I want to show you how, we want to just mention that if you missed the AMS session with Brad just wrapped up, he did mention the inspections and the conditional observations, but also the inspections will now take labor and equipment, okay? So labor and equipment only. So here's a quick video of this. So I'm moving over from that plugin page we are using that quick navigation easily just without having to use the mouse. And you can see I have those radio buttons. I'm going to go ahead and jump into my work orders, and I can get presented by the groups and the types, and I can easily navigate to that. But I can also then filter for any of these, right? Mine happens to be right there. So I'm going to select that paint hydrant template. And as you can see from here, we're actually going to, it's the same information you were used to seeing previously, but now I actually also get to see those tabs, right? So the template activities, as I mentioned, those have been combined with, or the task and the different inspections. You still have that availability to configure those as necessary. And there's a task also with the hierarchy aspect. Elm. So what we gain from this is we get to see that all at once, whether it's in-house or contractor, but you can still, take advantage of both. You'll see those displayed here, but truly the value is getting to see that estimated total Elm costs all on one page. The asset and map, as I mentioned, also consolidated in one, so easily can be configured. And then security, I can actually come in here and set these up. And if I want the advanced view, I can easily just come in and do that. But I could also come in and take advantage of those different templates if I wanted to, and then easily be able to assign security among them. Okay, so here's service requests, also very similar. You have the questions, the map layers, the template activities. You can apply different inspections or security, to one. And then inspection templates, very similar to the others that you saw. You have your general tab, and then you have the observations, asset and map, security. So where applicable, we did consolidate some of those, like the asset and map to the inspections. So that's really, in a nutshell, what could be done with work activity templates and how those can be combined. All right, the next part I do want to cover is asset groups. And so this is what you're accustomed to, and this isn't like a earth-shattering difference, but it is from a user experience standpoint, okay? And it's small things like these that we also want to pay attention, and as you see these, we want to tackle those. So for example, the asset configuration was on the left side, you got to select the featured objects, and on the right side, you see the asset field config. And then you could see the attributes here, as you could see from the bottom, like this yellow color highlight. And so you would have to scroll to get to the relationships and any information below that. And so in admin, what we've done now is, once again, you have that same information where you have your features object, but now we can actually start to see not only the attributes side by side, but we can also see that information that used to be here, the relationships. With just a little bit of scrolling, I can get to it rather than having to scroll through, the entire Twitter feed to get there. And then the nice thing of being able to move, I can drag and drop, but for limited space, I can actually just use the move and easily maneuver it rather than trying to hold down and scroll up or so on. So that is minor things, but hopefully it will make a difference as you start to use admin. Okay, field validation. So this is an area, once again, that came back from feedback from users. How many times have you asked, hey, I want to make sure that assets are attached to work orders before they progress or closed, and that equipment, labor, materials, or costs are actually added to it. And you might have thought we were just sitting around figuring maybe we'd get around to it. And so field validation actually makes this possible. And so I hope that as you start to use this with admin, that you start to see the value behind that, and you continue to give us that feedback of where you want this to go, because really this is just the beginning. If you look at how this, once you start working with this, and then the wheels start spinning as to how this could really expand to other areas of the platform. So you get to configure conditions to work activities, and I say work activities because this can be done to service request, work orders, or inspections. It's parent table data. So if you start to think about queries, it's that initial table where all that information is stored. But for service requests and work orders, this was also extended for custom fields. This is at the API or services level, which means that this is going to be Office or Respond, and even mobile. Though I will full transparency, we did find a bug with mobile. We're working on it, but that's the impact of why we put it at the API and services level, so that it could be across the platform. You can update, close, or cancel, and then the condition types are info, error, and warning. And I would, the reason error and warning are in bold is because of those are the ones that I would recommend you use and concentrate on mostly. It's the ones that are going to give you the best value. So just a diagram, and I'm no graphic designer, so for any graphic designers or marketing staff out there, this is what you get, sorry. But I really wanted to do this diagram to show you what this looks like. So we have started with the field validation event. Then what is it that you want to do? That it run every time it's updating, or close, or cancel. And then the frequency, you actually get to set, you know, should that always run? So every time you're going to update, or is it only in a specific condition? So if it's this status, then it would run this validation event, the update one, or the close or cancel. And then we come down here to the field condition. So what is it that you're trying to validate? Like enforcing that Elm be populated. And then you get to actually display and write what that error message is. Yes, I said that. You get to write the error message to the user. I know not many are fans of our really not very directional error messages that are by default. So what does that look like? We get to come in here and actually configure the different queries. And I wanted to show you how, because in the next video you'll see this, but what that query configuration goes to. So you get to set it up for the field or any of those other items. So if a field is null, if any specific functions, whether it's a previous, doing a comparison between the previous and the current value. And so you can see this is a pretty robust logic there. And so you could add additional conditions if you want to. It's really up to limits there. If one of the things we are going to work on also is seeing how we can provide even more examples in our documentation, so on, to facilitate that for you. Okay. Here in this case, I wanted to see whether an asset's attached, so I'm using a function, and then saying, you know, if the entity is null, then I want them to see this validation message that the asset must be attached and prevent it from closing. So with that, that's all from here. I'm gonna move on just to make sure that we're moving forward here. Okay, and so we went through the configuration part of it, but now let's actually look at the user, right? So the user's gonna come in, do their work activities, and then respond. And I did not put this in Office, but it is also available to an extent in Office. Once again, full disclosure, there is a bug on one of the updating, which is documented, so we're currently working through that. But as you can see, it is available through service requests, work orders, inspections. And then the last part, you see PLL cases, it is not available to that, but it is something I know Kara is working on. Okay, so this last part is just being able to see the message. So you saw previously how we configured this. You can see it's looking for whether the labor cost is null, and it will throw up that message, there's no labor cost in this work order, or that no assets attached. So here I am in respond. You can see there is no asset attached to this. There is no equipment cost to it. It's all zero. So I go to close it, and I am prevented up at the top right with those notifications. Even if I close those, that triangle will remain up there. And if I try to do it again, it will still not allow the work order to be closed. So just, I hope everyone is just thinking of ways they could take advantage of this new feature and built it into their, you know, maybe even some of their QA QC efforts that have been a little bit more difficult. And this last part is really just, we only had a limited time to cover some features. Here's all that's in admin, all the pages that are available. So there are a few, like I mentioned, disclaimer up top, that are not available from designer to admin. And with that, I want to turn it over to Kara to take you through the PLL items.
Okay, so for a very long time with PLL admin, you know, we've been looking to make improvements to it, but because it was so old and very limited in what we could do with it, we really weren't able to do a whole lot with it. But with the new admin app, we now have that opportunity to make those improvements and to improve the configuration experience for PLL, while also, like Denora said, unifying it with the AMS configuration so that it is truly one app and you don't have to bounce around between different areas. We've worked really hard to improve the user experience and to make it as easy and intuitive as possible. So I'm going to show you an example of kind of the generalized improvements we're making across admin for PLL. And one of the easiest ways I could do that is by showing you the case types, because it's straightforward and simple. So first of all, over here on the left, we have the case type configuration list panel, and that's going to show you all of the case types that you have listed currently in your configuration. And then you can select it, and on the right is going to be the case type edit panel. And that's going to be where you can make your changes to your current configuration. So if you don't have anything on the left selected, you're not going to see the edit panel on the right. Now, if you are familiar with Respond, down here at the bottom of this configuration panel on the left here, there's a series of icons, and some of these icons will be familiar to you if you are familiar with Respond, such as the search and the filter icons, which will allow you to filter the list down so that you're not working with every single configuration or item that's configured in this list. You can filter it by what you type and also the filters that are available. Also, we have the column controls and the panel record controls, so you can view more records if you want to on your screen. I know mine's pretty small, so I keep it limited. And the columns will allow you to change which columns are visible and which data you're looking at in that list. Now, with the new functionality in admin, we've got a series of buttons here kind of sandwiched in between those generalized buttons where the real functionality is coming in. So first of all, we have the add record button, which is a little plus sign. And that is going to be where you add a new configuration item. This is what the add modal looks like. It'll pop up over that screen, and you'll have all of your fields available to start filling out your information for that new case type in this example. But I really want to draw your attention to down here in the bottom, the add and the add new button. Now, the add button is pretty standard functionality. It was in the old PLL admin where if you add it, it's going to create the new configuration item, in this case, case type, and then it's going to close this modal and take you back to that configuration list. The add new button, on the other hand, is going to add the new case type or configuration item, whatever you're working with, and it's going, then you click add new, it's going to refresh this modal so everything's blank, but keep it open so you can quickly add more items to your configuration without having to, reopen the add record button. All right, back to our configuration list. A couple things I want to point out about the editing capabilities here on the right is that we have autosave implemented, so that it's going to make it so that if you navigate away, you don't lose what items you've been working on. All those changes are saved automatically, and you can also select multiple items on the left at the same time and make edits across multiple items at once. So that's a huge improvement, I think, over the last one, in the sense that you can, if you need to make edits en masse, we have a way to do that as well. Also, we are working on something I forgot to mention in the add panel is we are working on making it so that required fields, there's certain fields that are required for creating a case type or whatever other configuration item in order to make them unique in the database. And we're working on a way to visualize that requirement so that users are aware of what's required and what's not, instead of trying to have to guess. All right, the next button I want to talk about, or actually the next two buttons, are the delete and the copy. And the little trash can is going to delete a record, so you can delete your configuration items. Of course, the same rules still apply, where if it's being used somewhere in historical data, you won't be able to delete it, in which case you'll want to expire it. And the copy function is really useful in that it will take whatever configuration item you have selected and copy that functionality into a new add window, so you can add something that's very similar and maybe just make some small changes. And the last button I want to talk about is a very cool button. It's this little floor plan looking thing over here, the very last one kind of in those middle buttons. And this is what's called the configuration review. So when you click on an item, select a list in like a case type in that configuration list and hit the configuration review button, it's going to pop up this modal, which doesn't have any functionality to it, but it is informational. What you are looking at is, first of all, it's going to list out all the areas that the case type could potentially be referenced or used in. And then you are able to click to open those areas to see where it's actually being used. So when you want to make changes to something with a PLL item, there are potentially a lot of touch points across your configuration where that item is being used. And now a case type has 5 different areas. It can be used in a case template, it can be referenced by a condition, it can be used in a case notification or flags or security roles. Some items like tasks will have a lot more areas where they'll be referenced. So if you're going to make a change to a task and you want to know what you're changing and how it's going to affect all of the different places that it gets touched in the software, like how many workflows am I going to affect if I change this task, or how many templates am I going to change if I change this fee specifically. So we created this way where you can visualize this really quickly by just popping open this configuration review, click through and say, okay, this is all the places that this item is being used. And so I have a better idea of what I am doing when I make those changes with that. And that way, before in PLL admin, there was really no way to do this. And so you were just kind of like, if you were like me, you'd have to click through the different areas and say, okay, where exactly am I using this? And it was a really arduous process. Now we hope to have made that a lot easier for the admins and the people who are doing the configuration. And that is all the generalized improvements that we've made or that we are making for the PLL specific side of the software. But I do want to mention that there's lots of different areas in PLL that have their own kind of unique specific complications. And so those ones will of course have their own twists that we still hope are intuitive and easy to use and make it better for the configuration experience. With that, I'm done. So I think it's question time.
Thank you, Kara and Denora. With the last about 2 minutes we've got a few questions worth addressing. I'm going to just pick a few from the chat. There will be a few that go unanswered, but we can get to them a little later. First, this is Thomas from City of South Bend. Can the field requirements and errors translate to mobile work?
All right, there we go. There is a known issue right now with mobile. So it does prevent you from closing it, but the error message is not appearing. And so that's something that we're currently working on. But good question.
Alicia has another question about the field validation errors. She asks, can those field validation errors be set on the work order template level, or is it an all or nothing? All work order templates or none. Some of the templates they use do not need assets attached, but some are mandatory.
Yeah, so if you saw from the video, and by the way, the videos will be available after the conference, so you could go and revisit it too. But yes, it's per template type. So you actually have to go select the template type. Now, if you set it up for one and you want to go and clone it to others, you can do that. We've provided a clone button for it. But yes, you have to go in and set it up per template type. So it's not an apply to all.
Thank you. There were also a few questions in regards to training. So for the last few seconds, I'll address those. Admin training will be made available. We're anticipating that it'll be released sometime near the end of July. So just a few weeks out for that admin training. And the price point is yet to have been determined. With that, I'd like to thank our presenters and our attendees. As a reminder, as you make your way out of this session, please click the Exit to Lobby button in the upper right corner of your screen. Please exit to the lobby prior to closing your browser. And thank you for joining us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.